Throwaway account. So my 28M brother came over with his wife yesterday and spent the night with my 27F wife and myself. It is worth mentioning that I come from a Muslim family and my wife does not. When my brother and his wife arrived, my wife was just getting home from work, so she was wearing scrubs and her name badge. While I made polite conversation with my brother and Sil, my wife went to change clothes. It is also worth mentioning that my wife has tattoos, piercings, dyed hair and stretched ears. Very much your stereotypical goth girl. Once she was done, she came back into our living room in a tank top and a pair of shorts. My brother averted his eyes, but my sister-in-law couldn't stop looking at my wife. My wife has a tattoo from her thigh to her ankle on her left leg and a tattoo on her calf on her right leg. My wife finally noticed and asked my Sil, "Like the tattoo?" To which she simply blushed. My wife smiles and tells her, "You're fine, I'm used to the stares. You forget how many tattoos and piercings I have." My Sil and brother both asked her how many. She has 7 piercings and almost 20 tattoos. The evening continues and during dinner, the conversation turns to my wife's tattoos. My Sil asks if she's planning more and my wife tells her yes she is, as she's currently working on a full back piece. My brother rolls his eyes and continues to eat. Shortly after dinner we're getting ready for bed. It's worth mentioning that my wife sleeps in a shirt and PJ pants. At no point is my wife nude or semi-nude. Before we go to bed my brother comes into our bedroom and my wife is in the process of having me put tattoo lotion into the tattoo on her back. She has her shirt pulled up in the back but has her arms over her chest covering her breasts. My brother sees this and runs from the room. My wife is embarrassed but I tell her to not worry about it as it's his fault for not knocking. Once I'm done I go out to see what my brother needed. He tells me, "I shouldn't see your wife in a state of undress. You need to be a husband and tell her to cover up." My wife did not need to see her body. I did not need to see her body. I tell him he should have knocked and it's not my fault or hers. He and his wife left early the next morning. I've been getting a lot of phone calls from him and my parents saying my wife is a loose woman and she needs to cover herself. I tell them she doesn't and to leave her alone. My parents and brother now want an apology from us both. So, am I the asshole? Next story. I am a widower. I lost my wife, Anne 34. Just minutes after she gave birth to our first baby, Sammy. She had a difficult pregnancy, so I took an indefinite leave 3 months before she was due. Sammy's 4 months old now, and before I went back to work, I told my mill, Sandra 56, about my plans and if she can recommend a nanny to take care of my daughter when I work. She offered to do it, nanny, for free. I told her she's free to come by any time during the day if she feels uncomfortable with a nanny looking after Sammy, but she insisted on doing it herself. So I said yes and gave her a copy of the house keys. She comes 30 minutes before I leave for work, and when I come home, she stays for dinner and leaves after putting Sammy to sleep. Everything was fine for the first couple of weeks until I noticed that Sammy's not feeding as much. Her formula's barely touched. I asked Sandra about it and why Sammy's not feeding well. She said she's trying to breastfeed my daughter. At first I thought she was joking, then I realized she wasn't. She said Sammy needs to latch for a few minutes every day to activate her milk production. I almost lost it. I told her she cannot do that, and she needs to stop. She said she will, but I caught her again when I walked in my daughter's room and she was forcing Sammy to latch. I confronted her and told her she's no longer my baby's nanny. I didn't ask for the key back as she is still welcome to come visit anytime. I asked for a 1-week leave from work to care for my daughter and find a nanny. I found one, but 2 days after she never returned. I called her and she said my mother fired her the day before. I asked her to describe the woman and I was livid when I realized it was Sandra. She came in my house using her key and fired my nanny. I was about to call her when she showed up and said a convoluted story like how I hired an incompetent nanny, etc., etc. I told her to leave, but she refused and told me she's calling CPS because I am endangering my child. We argued back and forth before I called the police and she was charged with trespassing. I know my mill is grieving the loss of her daughter, I am too. But she crossed the line when she disregarded my wishes. She is very upset with me. My Sil and Bill are calling me ruthless and I am now second-guessing myself. Have I taken it too far by calling the police? Aita, edit. Thank you everyone for your advice and showing concern for Sammy. I called CPS to tell them about the situation. My mom is coming over to help look after my daughter and look at our options. She's a retired family law attorney. I do have a doorbell camera, but reading some of the suggestions here, I decided to up my home security system. Bill and Sil know the whole story, and they also think that forcing to breastfeed Sammy was wrong, but they are angry at me for calling the cops on Mill and having her trespassed. They said it was unnecessary and cruel to do to a grieving mother. Next story. I, 18F, got into this prestigious art show that I am really excited about. It opens up on Friday and there's going to be a party, but I didn't tell my family because I didn't want my sister, 24F, to come. Long story short, my sister's autistic. She's really smart, she went to an Ivy League school, but does not do well with social cues. Usually, this leads her to belittling me and being mean. My parents always tell me to get over it, and that since she's autistic, she can't help it. But she doesn't unleash on them the same way that she unleashes on me, so I don't think they really understand. Every time something good happens to me, she just kinds of shits on it, me, and she never, ever apologizes. Anyhow, my parents found out about the art show and got mad at me for not telling them. They told me they'll be coming to the opening with my sister, since she's currently living with us. I ended up breaking down and begging them not to bring her. I worked so hard for this, and since she thinks that my paintings are silly in the first place, I know she's going to try bringing me down in front of my friends and teachers. I asked if they could just wait until after the party and go later. The show will be up for a week, but they said they'd be coming to the party. They also said I was being ableist by wanting to exclude my sister. My sister found out and started screaming at me and calling me an asshole for not letting her share in this moment with me. From my point of view, I just want to have a happy night and celebrate this accomplishment, but IDK. Everyone in my family's pissed at me, so maybe I am the asshole? TLDR. My sister insults me all the time and I didn't invite her to my art show because of it, but my family think I'm an asshole for not doing that. Next story. I have been in therapy for 10 years and am diagnosed with PTSD. My dog is task trained to help me during panic attacks. My 26F roommate, 24F, Janet, is a close friend of approximately 6 years and my roomie. 8 months ago, she started going on casual dates with Brad, 25M. Brad eats my food without asking and damaged several items of mine. After he damaged a favorite item, I asked Janet if he could not use it when he came over. She asked to see the damage, about how I knew it was Brad. I showed her and said he was just the last person to use it that I knew of. She agreed Brad should not use it and apologized. He tried to take my dog somewhere, did not mention where. I started to feel scared to leave my dog at home and asked Janet if they could please not do that. She got defensive and insisted Brad is always nice to my dog. I tried to de-escalate, saying that it not about him, specifically. Brad started showing up unannounced at night. Each time, I asked Janet if she was expecting anyone. When she said she wasn't, I peeked through the door and saw it was him. At this point I'm uncomfortable. One morning I see he left the item he damaged out while he was in the bathroom. Janet was there, so I asked, "Is he using that?" And she responded, "Oh, but I'm with him." I said, "I don't want to ask for something just for him to look for loopholes." She started crying. Brad came out, saw she was crying, and started yelling, "What is it now? You always have a problem and I'm sick of it." I started shaking, but said, "Please don't talk to me that way. You are a guest in our home." He kept yelling, "I'm sick and tired of you making this such a hostile environment." I went back to my room and had a panic attack. Brad kept yelling. Then Janet started laughing. I told Janet that Brad's behavior concerned me. She told me I was overreacting. Brad was sticking up for her because I was being ridiculous. I asked her for a 20-minute heads up before he came over because he made me feel scared. This would give me time to grab my things and either go to my room or go to my boyfriend's. She said that was doable and promised to do so. Multiple times, Janet and Brad have surprised me at night while I took my dog out. Each time I have a massive panic attack. The first time, Brad kept walking closer to me after I asked him to stop. He started yelling because he just wanted to clear the air and apologize. After the most recent surprise, my fingers, face, and legs froze. I fell down into the grass and was unable to move for an hour. Janet and I have not spoken since.